Look, for Rams fans, it's like, okay, we're picking 31st, and then it's like, I'll see you on Saturday, right?
Right. Yeah,
Because
that's right. Yeah.
So
Well, here's a good point. Do you think that the Rams could trade that and just be more stocked in the second and third round?
oh, no, sure. I mean, they've got the two late third rounds. They're not the best. There's going to be some jockeying for position. I think the Rams would possibly like to move into the second round, but I don't know what they're going to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
They have no second round picks. They've got two third round picks. I'm not sure where they're going to go with it. And then, Chargers picking 3 picks ahead of them in the first round, but they have a pick in every round. So they have the same number of picks, but the Chargers get to pick 2 on the first day.
Right. Yeah.
The Rams needed an inside linebacker.
Yeah.
Their defensive front's incredible. Obviously, the addition of the pass rusher they've got now from the edge standpoint, they're going to be solidified. It's the year of the defensive lineman, though, as far as the draft prospects.
Yeah, the word is,
you lose Sue,
defensive
though, right?
tackle. Well, they don't know that they've lost Sue yet.
Oh.
I mean, he's still a free agent, and then they might still sign him. So, there's some interesting things going on with the Rams. They definitely need defensive help.
They need inside linebacker.
Yeah.
But I tell you, Devin White, the kid from LSU, is fast and smart. I think there's a drop-off between Devin Bush at Michigan, who's tough and an outstanding player, but Devin White at LSU, I mean, completely is the top number 1 inside backer pick that could step in anywhere. And that's really where they had just injuries and maybe less productivity for just a tremendous year, if you could call it that, and he could fit in really nicely.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of whether he'll be around at that point. Where the Rams are picking at 31. Yeah. It's all hell could break loose.
Because you look at mock drafts, right, and Tampa needs the same thing. So you see a guy like Tampa going after a guy like White. So, but after starting to look at this a little bit more, is like there are screaming with defensive ends. Like there are defensive ends everywhere in this whole entire draft. And then, there's a couple inside defensive linemen that are key guys. But I mean, you got a possibility of 3 Clemson defensive guys going in the first round. Like they're legit guys.
I think the Clellan Farrell, the outside defensive end stand-up, who could probably drop and cover a little bit out in the flat, is just a specimen and a tremendous personality that was extremely productive. And I mean, they've pinned their ears back there at Clemson and really challenged Alabama.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this kid Williams, Quentin Williams out of Alabama is just a man-child. Right?
Yeah.
And I always go back, like I look at these guys and you're like, you're massive. What were you when you were 18 years old in high school? Like, that would be crazy to watch that. I mean, you see him 3 years, I don't know, is he a senior? I don't know, he's a sophomore, right? Like, holy cow, 2 years ago, that massive man was going against high school. Like, how would you like to be lining up against him? Like, good luck, kid.
My sophomore year, I had the pleasure of starting at 258 pounds, something like that, as an offensive guard. Now, granted, this is 1986, so people were starting to get big, but not giant. But I played against Jerome Brown, who was the National Defensive Player of the Year, who was going to be a surefire Hall of Famer, with the exception of his tragic passing, when he was with the Eagles. And he didn't beat me for a sack, and I held my own. But one play, he literally picked me up and bull rushed me past the quarterback. Kept my inside position somehow. Didn't get off me. Didn't get a minus. But I was on roller skates on that. And I felt, if he wanted to chuck me, I think I would have been gone. But, he would have been 305 pounds and just, like I say, a surefire Hall of Famer in the future. But now that development, kids are growing, and the genetic turnover we have from height and weight and strength training and nutrition, it just continues to, kids get bigger and bigger and bigger at an earlier age.
The thing that I think is crazy, that sometimes just boggles my mind, is the speed. And we see it at the combines, and you've got these gigantic guys, guys like, Aaron Donald, who are the size that he is, but he, and again, he doesn't work out like a defensive lineman, right? He says, I work out like a running back, like a skill position. So those are his types of workouts. He's trying to get that burst, that speed, and he's just a beast. I mean, he's an absolute beast.
Well, that's, Charlie, because, you have to be in position, right, to block these guys, and that's where you look at guys like Bosa and Oliver, who are not actually that big at their position, but they're fast, and they can just get inside, right? And it's almost like, you'd rather have a bigger body and you're working more with, his weight and your weight, where then, I don't know what you guys do, but if the guy gets by and you yell fire, fire, I don't know what you yell, but I mean, you're like, here he comes, I tried.
You're looking at the mobility and the gap protection from an offensive lineman's perspective of what you're trying to take away from the defensive line. The linebackers and defensive front are always working in conjunction to cover a gap. So the speed, the ability to get to that gap, to cross the face of an offensive lineman, to get on his outside, corner on a power and something to the outside to sweep, and then the ability to close upfield kind of has that unique combination. Nick Bosa is going to be better than his brother.
Yeah,
he is phenomenally talented. Had that groin injury, which was really odd, and hopefully that doesn't linger. And kind of, I think he should be healthy from what I've heard. And obviously,
so was that the right decision to shut him down?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
I think it's the college's obligation to take care of its primary concerns, but in this case, you're not going to do something to injure a player, especially when it's a soft tissue. If it's an acute thing, if it's a joint injury, a break, what are you going to do?
Right,
you just have to let it heal.
Let it heal. Yeah,
but you do have to make those decisions in conjunction with the player and what's best for the player as well. So, and that's a recruiting thing. That's where the program, if they're recruiting people that are going to move on to the next level, then do they want to be perceived as only doing what's best for the institution versus let's talk this through and do what's best for both sides.
Right, yeah.
That's the business relationship in a Division I program. Basketball doesn't matter what the sport.
Yeah.
Sorry to take you off of what the Rams were going to do at 31 or whatever they're
31,
at. Yeah. But again, I did hear some rumors the last couple of days that they're open to trade it if it's beneficial for them.
Yeah.
I think really, I mean.
But like Charlie says, they have gaps at inside linebacker.
Yeah.
They do have gaps on the offensive line now. Losing their center. So I think that they're likely to keep it. I think there's value in that first round pick. But again, it depends on the cap, their salary cap. They're very sensitive to what's going on. And again, you got first round guaranteed money. And if you say, hey, I'll pick 5 picks behind and trade you this, and now we've got a smaller contract, a more manageable contract, and maybe a little bit more cap space and more flexibility. But we'll see. I think it's going to be a lineman. I think they're going to keep it. I think they're going to get a lineman because, again, that it's a Ferrari, right?
With Sullivan gone, though, who was tremendous.
Right.
Garrett Bradbury from North Carolina State, hands down the best center in the country. That guy is phenomenal. There's a guy named Al Johnson that played out of Wisconsin a few years back, probably like 10 years now. I'm kind of dating everybody here, but played for the Cowboys, and he wasn't overly big. He wasn't a 300-pounder, 285. His balance, his footwork, he almost reminded people like Mark Stepnowski, who played center that was very, very light for the Cowboys for a lot of years as well. But this Garrett Bradbury is an absolute tremendous pass blocker, can get to the second level, getting through his combo blocks. John Sullivan. So for many years, when I ran the facility at Athletes Performance, now Exos, I actually trained the offensive line for the combine and did all the position work, and I did that for about 8 years. And I was hired by the agents as well to work with people outside of the guys training with us at AP, physically and whatnot.
Yep.
And Sullivan was with 3 other guys in a draft year that all went in the top couple rounds and had great careers. They were starving for sushi, so I'm working out with these guys at the Velocity in Irvine, and they're saying, well, where can we go for some sushi? I said, well, I know a place that's great, all you can eat, $25, whatever the case may be. And it's not 5-star, but it's pretty good. You know the story. They literally were asked to leave. They were asked to leave. So these guys went in there, and they're all at the height of training for, again, the most important job interview of their life, training twice a day for, upwards of 8 weeks.
Lean protein.
Yeah, and they were eating very, very healthy, but you can't make a lineman eat like that all the time. So they went into this place, and it was usually a 3 or 4 rounder, all you can eat, which nobody surpasses. And they started getting the looks and the stares. And
they went chapter 13 shortly after.
Finally, the guy says, I think it's time to go.
Hey, Bill, gone.
They were happy. They liked the recommendation, though.
Yeah. Here, hot green tea.
More rice. Here's more rice.
Here's more rice. Yeah.
So the Rams will be bystanders for most of day 1. More picks on day 2 and through the weekend. A lot of things to